Welcome to Photography 102, Photography in the Field. I do apologise if there's a bit of wind. I was actually up here yesterday and the wind was horrific. So with the timestamps of each one, you can go back and check the differences. I'm going to be taking some shots now. So today I'm going to be going over focal length, and then I'm also going to go over shutter speed and aperture and ISO. So first of all, we are at 17mm focal length on this lens here. As you can see, it's very wide. You can see like the branches here, you can see me, you can see the background, you can see the poles, you can see this pylon here. As we progress, you'll start noticing that these things start disappearing and the background here will get closer, and you'll get closer to me as well. So currently we're at 17. Well, didn't we have this argument yesterday? Like, come on, get over there. Come on. Come on. But look, I'll get you a beer later on. Come on. Okay. Right. So we have the millimeters down here, and that's what you'll get with a 17mm on a full frame. It would be slightly different at a aps-c or crop sensor camera, because the crop kind of magnifies in a bit more. So it'd be a little bit less. For me to fill up this much of the frame, I'm literally 2 feet away from the camera right now. As you will notice, I'll be taking shots later on with a longer distance, and I'll be at least 10 feet away. Okay, so we are currently at 20mm focus. I'm putting me back to the wind so it doesn't get too much windy noise. So this is 20mm. Don't, come on. Do you want a beer too? Thank you. So this is currently 20mm. And as you can notice now, a little bit of the branch is gone, a little bit of the side's gone, and you're a little bit closer to the shore there. There's not much of a difference. Everything's being shot at f2.8 throughout the whole focal range, so you might notice that right now it's not too much of a blur distance between me and the background. The blur is, I would say, soft, so you could actually still make out the background to a degree. And later on, when you get to a different focal length, you'll notice that that's completely blurred out. A lot of photographers like this in the portrait sense, to kind of isolate your subject and separate them from the background. If you're doing a wildlife shot as well, it's very nice to have that as well. If you're doing a wedding shot, you'll probably want everyone in, and you'll want the church in focus in the background. So it all depends. There's all these variables of why you would use what lens for what type of photography. So I am standing roughly about the same distance away, so I'm probably a bit dark here. I'm standing roughly about the same distance away as I was with the 17mm. I'm taking up more of the frame now. So as the focal length numbers go up, you kind of get the magnification in. I'm still standing in roughly the same spot. There's about 1.5 foot distance between me and the lens, and you'll notice I'm filling up more of the frame. So at 24mm, you'll probably notice that the shore has gone a bit more, the branch and the side there as well. You're getting a bit closer to me, but you still get a lot of the vista in, including myself in this shot. So 28mm, come on, thank you, just, okay. So the reason why I've done 28mm on this is because I have a Tamron 17 to 28mm lens. So this is the maximum that this lens will allow me to do. So if this is the kind of lens that you are interested in, you can see at the very start, 17mm, 24, now 28. That is the full focal range of that lens. Now, depending on the camera, so the Sony a7 III, the a7 R4, and I think the a7 R3, and probably one or two others, you can adjust, depending on which camera it is, you can do a crop in. So let me show you this now. So this is now cropped in. What that does is, instead of taking up the full frame here of the sensor, it will take up a smaller part. And the way it works is, because this here is smaller than it, you're kind of zoomed in, and it's a factor of 1.5. So that was 28mm multiplied by 1.5. This is 27mm roughly. So you do have that option. However, you will be losing that bit of quality around it. Now I'm shooting on the a7R4, so I'm assuming that because it's a 61 megapixel sensor, that I'm not going to lose much quality on it. That's something to bear in mind. If say you were shooting with the Sony a7S III, it's a 12 megapixel camera, is 12 megapixel sensor, so you will be losing it. Okay, so we are at 28 millimeters, and this is me standing where I was at the very start. You notice that a bit of my head is gone, a bit more of my body is gone. So to get a kind of good frame, I'd have to stand 3 feet away from it now. As you can see that there's a bit more blur between me and the background now. As you kind of get closer and as you get further away, and as your subject gets further away from the lens and the background as well, there's a separation there where the background starts becoming more blurry and the foreground kind of. Now from the beginning you probably noticed from 17 to 35, we're at 35 right now. Hey, nice, thanks. We're at 35 millimeter right now. We're starting to get tighter in now, so it's focusing in and focusing in. You'll notice now with the wide angles, say from 20 millimeters down to 12 millimeters, there's a massive difference does happen. But then from 35 to say 60, there's a bit of a difference, and then there's another jump from about 60 all the way up to about 200 millimeters, where it's a fast jump as well. And then from 200 millimeters up to about 800 millimeters, it's the distance doesn't seem so much. I'll put in a link to a focal length magnifier, and just scroll along on the icon at the bottom, and you'll kind of focus in on that image. And what it does is it'll show you the difference of the focal lengths. But what you want to look for is when you're over 200, and as you keep on scrolling, that number is going to rise very quickly, but you don't see that you're zooming in as much. But some of them are needed just to kind of keep your distance away. Wildlife sports, you can't go on the field, or you can't get up to a bird with a 35 millimeter right in front of them unless it's a trained pet, and unless you want to get kicked off of a. Now we are coming to a popular focal length, 25 millimeters. You'll get this in a prime lens. You can get 1.4, 1.2, some are 1, some are 0.98, 1.8. These are all great focal lengths to get a nice background blur and very intimate shots. You have to kind of get close up with the subject, the model, the person, individual. So here we are now with 50 millimeters. It's a very popular focal length because you can kind of keep your distance away, but you can still stay intimate. It also reflects usually what the human eye would actually see. So it's a very popular lens. Again, you'll see a lot of these in a 1.8, 1.4, and usually it's called the Nifty 50, and you usually get a nice cheap one, and you think it's too good to be true, but even the cheap ones are still a great value to get. Like there's a 50 millimeter 1.8, about €200 rough, give or take, and it's fantastic. Here we are now at the 50 millimeter range. Sorry about the wind if it's don't you start on me now. Come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. There you go. Stay. Good 50, good 50. Not that nifty. Right, so here we are now at the 50 millimeter range. You can start noticing that you're not getting as much. You might start to notice now that the background is kind of being a bit more compressed. We'll get into that at a higher focal length. You'll start noticing that the background starts being sucked in towards the camera. So it kind of, whatever way the focal length is, when it focuses on me, it just sucks in the background and it brings it closer compared to the other millimeters. If you want to look back and compare all these millimeters, I'm going to put a timestamp on the channel, and then you can click on any one of them to go back to the original number. With that, if you've made it this far, hey, I would like to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, to subscribe, to like, comment, just kind of help boost the channel so that I can make more content like this. Here we are at 75 millimeters. It's a strange number, yes. You might say, why is he saying 75? Or most lenses are 24 to 70, so why 75? Well, Tamron have created a smaller, lighter, cheaper lens that is 28 to 75 millimeters. With that, I'm a cheapskate, so I went and bought the cheapskate one, which is a 28 to 75. So here is the maximum length of this lens, and if you want to go back to 28, which was the end of the original lens, so you buy these two lenses, you now have the focal length of 17 millimeters to 75. Now there is another lens after this, which is 70 to 180, and then you have that more distance. So as you can notice now that the background is nice and blurry, getting blurry there now, or the bokeh, and this is kind of the effect you'll get at roughly the 6 feet mark. You'll get me fully in frame now, up to the shoulders. Wish I'd been working out a bit more, you know. It didn't pick me up, didn't focus on me, which was kind of annoying. So this here now is 75mm. Nice. Right, something went finally my way. So this is 75mm. We're getting tighter in. You can see that like my legs are gone now. I'm still standing in the same position roughly, and you can start to see the background blur and separation between me and the background. We are now at 100mm. Come on, man, everybody else has been cool, like, come on. Oh, this side. Oh, God. Like, come on, we're almost done, the battery's dying, come on. Thank you. Oh, jeez. The wind's picking up, the battery's dying, nothing's going this way. So this is 100mm. You can now really notice the difference on the background blur. It's fantastic. It's getting creamier, it's giving the separation, and I'm now the focal point. So this is good for portrait photography. You know? Yeah, okay, you need a better model. But if you had a better model, just think of the fantastic shots you'd get now. So yeah, this is 100mm. Okay, just fine, stay there then, whatever. Next. Yeah, there we go. Right, this is 100mm, 7 feet away. Yeah, this is good if you have bad breath, you know, and you want to stay away from someone. This is where I've been standing this whole time. I do apologize if the wind is bad. It was not as bad as yesterday, so I'm hoping I can get away with it. This is 100mm. Sorry, this is 180mm. Yes. Right, so 180mm, and this is the focal length. You can now notice it's really blurry background here, and I'm in focus. It's at f2.8, and yeah, that's basically it. As you notice, the numbers from 17 to 28, and then 28 to 75, and then 70 to 180. You now have this massive focal range with 3 lenses. It's called a Trinity lens because 3 lenses that cover a massive focal range, and those are the main ranges that are used a lot. Just about getting me into frame, and I'm like 7 feet away from it. So about here. Right, so I'm kind of in frame. I'm about 10-12 feet away from the camera right now, roughly, give or take. And this is me filling up the frame. Great for breath and stinky breath and staying away from people, and you know, social distancing as well. So you can kind of get away with this one. It's just you can't show them all the pictures while you're doing it.